Hello, and welcome to the Age of AI, our series covering the rapid evolution of the AI landscape, exploring what's now, what's next, and how that impacts the world of business, the workplace, individuals, and the world. I'm your host, Shelly Kramer, Principal Analyst here at Kramer&Co, and our conversation today is going to center on why CIOs must lead the customer experience revolution. My guest today is Swapnil Jain, who's the co-founder and CEO of Observe.ai. Welcome, Swapnil. It's great to have you.
Shelly, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I've so been looking forward to this conversation. So to set the stage a little bit, in today's world, CIOs and IT teams are no longer just overseeing IT. In fact, they're charged with leading the enterprise-wide digital transformation initiatives, overseeing budgets and decisions for technology investments, and driving progress in all aspects of AI. In this conversation today, we're going to dive into all things contact center and customer support, and we're going to talk about why, at a time when virtually every department is fighting for budget and trying to harness AI to gain a competitive advantage, the contact center and customer experience should be prioritized. I know you agree with me on that front, Swapnil.
Oh, absolutely. I think customer service and customer experience is a huge cost in enterprises, and CIOs should be very actively involved in the decision making, especially when it comes to AI. I know we'll talk about AI customer service quite a bit today.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we dive into this conversation, I would love it if you would maybe share with us a little bit about your career backstory or career journey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Once again, thank you for having me. I'm Swapnil, one of the founders and the CEO of Observe.ai. I started the company roughly 7 years ago. My background, so I've not worked in customer service or contact center. I'm a software engineer by education, did my bachelor's in computer science, came here to San Francisco to work at Twitter. Back in the day, this is when it was not that fun. So 2012 to 2015, worked there as a software engineer, a great run. And this is 2015. All my friends were starting companies, so I had a lot of FOMO. I was 25, I'd made some money, living in San Francisco. Everyone around me was starting companies, so I was like, I want to start a company too. And then I jumped in, I left my job, and then decided to find an idea that I was passionate about. And as part of that journey, I actually spent 6 months in Philippines. So Manila in Philippines is one of the largest customer service hub of the world. You have these like millions of agents out there who are supporting, customer service for North American brands, right? So when you call your telco or your bank, oftentimes you talk to an agent who is in Manila. So I spent 6 months there, just learning more about customer service, call center stack, problems, right? And that's where we got the idea that customer service is a very, very large market. It's a $400 billion global spend, 20 million people employed, and there's a huge opportunity to use AI to help customer service and contact center leaders.
I started my career a million years ago in customer service when we weren't using technology on a daily basis, and we actually had to speak person to person with other customers. And so I sort of have creating great customer experiences baked into my DNA from the very earliest days of my career. So we are talking about something that I am very passionate about. As we know, CIOs and IT teams have a big job. They're no longer just overseeing AI. In fact, they're leading enterprise digital transformation initiatives, and they're overseeing massive budgets, and they're making decisions for technology investments. So today, with every department within an organization fighting for budget in this age of AI, why should prioritizing the contact center and customer support be at the top of the list?
Absolutely, Shelly. And this is a question that we actually get fairly frequent from our CIO customers, where every day they get these requests from their marketing function or a sales function or customer service function, where they're like, "Oh, I'm raising my hand and I want to implement AI and I want to implement this cool technology," right? And CIOs have a very tough job to decide where to invest, right? And the best way we explain and work with our CIO customers is to really help them understand where they will get the maximum amount of ROI in the shortest amount of time, right? That's how they should think about where they should go first, right? And the beauty of customer service and contact centers is that because of the nature of the work is so repetitive, right? So if you look at a call center, if you look at an agent, in a call center, they're basically picking up customer service calls and answering very repetitive queries again and again and again, right? You call in and say, hey, where's my package? When do I get my refund? I call in with the same thing. And every day, back to back, they're just doing the repetitive stuff, right? So what that does for AI is it is a great breeding ground, right? This is a perfect place for AI to start because AI is great at automating repetitive, interactions and calls that doesn't necessarily require a lot of human intelligence or empathy or that sensitivity, right? So it's a perfect place for AI to start versus a lot of other functions where AI requires a lot more intelligence and it's you have less risk tolerance versus in a customer service function. Second thing that we see is for AI to work, right, you got to have the right amount of data and systems in place, right? And fortunately, in contact center and customer service, we are at a place where we have a lot of data for AI to work paying off of. So when we call our banks or when we call our healthcare or telco, we always hear that a call is being recorded for quality and training. So all our calls for these years have been recorded. So contact centers are sitting on this massive amounts of data of past interactions, past outcomes on which they can train the AI. So using these both two, what ends up happening is this is a perfect place because you have the data, so you can train the AI. And then second, the kind of work that's happening in customer service and contact center, which is more repeatable, easier, does not require a lot of human intelligence, becomes sort of like perfect for AI to start. And that's where a lot of our customers and CIOs pick contact center and customer service as the first place to start their generative AI and LLM journey.
The way that I always think about this, Swapnil, is that your contact center agents are literally the front line of your organization. They come to work every day and they interact one-on-one with your customers. And many times your customers aren't happy or they're frustrated or whatever, but this is where you gain insights about this product doesn't work, or this delivery process is not as fine-tuned as it needs to be, or this execution that's supposed to be happening isn't happening. And so being able to take those insights that you're getting from the front line impacts so much of your business from a product standpoint, from a service standpoint, from a delivery standpoint, from an R&D standpoint, like all of those things. It can really have a significant impact if only you listen to them.
Yeah. You're right. Your customers are calling you every day. Your customer service agents are talking to them. And you're really not using AI to mine that information or to understand why the customers are calling, why they're happy, why they're sad, what product they like or not, right? So I think from a perspective, starting from customer service and contact center is a phenomenal place from an ROI perspective.
Yeah, it really is the front line of information. So we talked a little bit about risk. Talk with me about risks in the contact center and customer experience tech that you feel maybe aren't being spoken to quite enough yet.
Yeah, I think, like with any technology, right, generative AI, LLM come with risks, right? And I would say the biggest one that CIOs need to start thinking about, and it's almost like changing the way they approach software and technology is moving away from a very deterministic world to a non-deterministic world. So what I mean by that, Shelly, is if you go to ChatGPT and ask a question, right, it will give you a certain response. If you ask the same question again, there's a very decent chance that you will get a different response, right? The semantic of the response is going to be the same, but the syntax of it is going to be 100% different, right? It still conveys the same message, but it might be written in a different tone, different style, different formatting, and all sorts of things, right? And that's the nature of LLMs by definition, right? LLMs and in general generative AI that we all use today is fairly non-deterministic in nature. But when you look at a traditional software that we've used so far, right, it could be a CRM, it could be our any software that we use in our day-to-day lives. We're all used to a more deterministic world where is an UI, I click here, a page opens up, I fill out some details, I click next, and I almost know what's the next step and what's happening here, right? Versus with LLMs, it could be a little non-deterministic, right? So the biggest challenge and biggest sort of adaptation that is in front of CIOs today is this: how do you transform your entire technology stack to support a non-deterministic technology that is LLMs and generative AI for you, right? So, and getting used to the fact that, in today's time, when you look at your customer service interactions and your customers who are calling you, you're more used to assuming that I will have a static, scripted experience for them, right? But with LLM, you are moving into a world where LLMs are, by, as I said, nature non-deterministic. They're smart. I think we will use the word today, agentic, right? They are autonomous. They take their own decisions, right? They can reason within themselves. Right? And when you have a machine like that, when you have a system like that, which is reasoning capabilities, you are entering into a little bit of an undeterministic world. So CIOs now need to understand the risks around that, right? And what use cases you are comfortable with in such a system versus not. Let me give you an example. If you call in and ask like, hey, what's the status of my refund, right? The machine can reply to you in 20 different ways. What's the status of your refund and when you will get a refund back. But if, let's say, you are buying an insurance policy, and as part of an insurance policy, the machine reads to read you a disclaimer of about everything about the policy, the machine cannot mess it up. Machine has to say in the exact way the disclosure needs to be set out. So there are use cases where you're more comfortable with LLMs being more non-deterministic, and there are use cases where you're not comfortable. So I think from my perspective, and what I tell CIOs is, pick use cases we are more comfortable with the non-deterministic nature of LLMs, right? There's lower risk tolerance, lower requirement of everything being scripted, everything being deterministic. That's probably the biggest, I would say, mindset shift that's going to happen for CIOs who want to leverage the power of LLMs and generative AI and move away from the more traditional deterministic software that they've seen so far.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. So, you and your team are on the front lines when it comes to the key challenges that customers are wrestling with when it comes to the adoption and the integration of AI into contact center and customer support operations. I know that one of the biggest challenges is the challenge presented by legacy systems. They can be problematic in so many ways. What can CIOs with legacy systems do to kind of turn that boat around?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point, Shelly, and I do think that's actually absolutely happening today, right? When a CIO, who has been an on-premise world, who has been used to using systems in their own data centers, and a system that doesn't necessarily have APIs, a system that is not a modern architecture, right? And now they have a pressure of using generative AI in LLMs, and what they realize is their other systems, their entire infrastructure is so backward, so legacy, that they have to leapfrog so much to leverage the power of generative AI, right? And this happens quite often, right? With legacy systems, I would say, which are on premise, so you can't even access, because today's generative AI does not work on premise. Today's generative AI you cannot deploy in house, right? You have to be okay with deploying the LLMs and generative AI on the cloud, on the public cloud. Of course, you can have your own private instances of these cloud, but it has to be a public cloud managed by a large public cloud provider, right? And most CIOs are still grappling with the fact that, oh, my data is on premise, my other systems are on premise, and I can't even do that. So that's number one limitation that I would say, right? Which is they need to get over the fact that the world is going to be on premise. It absolutely will not be in today's age of AI, right? They need to
Right.
embrace cloud. They need to be okay with cloud. Second thing is from a data perspective, right? As I said before, for AI to work, you need data, you need training data, you need feedback loops, things of that nature, right? And most of the CIOs have not quite yet moved into what I call as a centralized data warehouse or data strategy, where all the data coming from call it their CRM, their telephony system, their order management system, their healthcare system, whatever it is, into a common central place where AI can go and access. For AI to work, AI needs a lot of this data. And the
Yes.
CIOs are still struggling with these legacy software providers who have data silos, right? And AI cannot work in that fashion. So the other big thing I would say for CIOs to truly adopt, LLMs and generative AI and so on, is to put together a strategy to bring all their data in a place where AI can consume, right? So migrate off data from these data silo softwares into a more centralized platform for AI to leverage. That's sort of the second thing I would say. Third, I would say is is a more human change management risk, I call, for CIOs, right? Because if you go and ask every CIO how they think about technology, right, the common terms you would hear from a CIO are, oh, I'm putting together my enterprise architecture. I'm putting together my 5-year AI strategy. I am putting together a long-term plan of how my company is going to adopt AI. And this is a big fallacy in how they're approaching AI. Unlike traditional technology, AI is changing by the week. AI is changing by the month. It is not a technology which is where the innovation cycle is stopped, and now it's only about adoption. So CIOs can put a 5-year plan and execute their 5-year plan. The problem here is the CIO, I put together a 2-year plan. Guess what? That plan is irrelevant in 3
In
months.
6 months, if that.
They need to be agile. They need to think in the form of experimentation. They need to think in the form of small iterative test versus an agentic architecture. And I think so CIOs are, in my mind, a lot of regressive CIOs are still in this old world of agentic architectures and company-wide architecture. And I'm like, it's not going to work. You're thinking about AI very, very wrongly compared to a lot of other CIOs who have truly embraced and are acting like product company CTOs who think iteratively, who think agile versus a more traditional way of looking at technology.
Yeah. It's such a salient point. And I've spent a career as a strategist and as an analyst. And, there was a time when we did make 5-year plans or 2-year plans or even a 1-year plan. And the reality of it, and this is really not new. I think really in the age of digital transformation as a whole, I think we've seen this shift. But, now I think the right path is to develop a strategic plan, to put the elements of that plan into motion, to watch and see what happens, to watch and see how the trends across the industry are changing, what's happening internally with adoption, what are our customers saying, those kinds of things. And today's strategic plans are kind of a work in progress that it's always shifting, it's always being upgraded, and really that's where agility plays such an important role. Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of agility, I think that we agree that, agility can play a huge role here in terms of the ability to AI can play a huge role, in terms of the way you can be agile and can help with business resilience and quicker pivots and that sort of thing. What kind of things are you seeing in the market as it relates to the power of AI, as it relates to being able to enable agility?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that we're seeing there, Shelly, is the ROI and feedback cycle of some of these AI experiments and AI technologies, right? So unlike traditional technology where you would say, okay, I'm going to go and put together an architecture and then I'm going to put together, I will start deploying that technology and maybe in 6 months or 12 months or 2 years later, I'll see the ROI of it, right? The beauty of the AI we are seeing today with agentic, with AI agents is you're able to see ROI in a week. You're able to see ROI in 10 days, right? So a lot of our customers who deploy our AI agents to automate some of their customer service queries, and in a matter of 2 weeks, they're like, oh, your AI is able to handle 20% or 30% of my incoming calls. That's
Right.
a direct ROI in improving their member experience, improving their customer experience, while trying to reduce their cost and the bottom line improvement, right?
Yeah.
So the beauty of AI is the experimentation cycles and the ROI cycles are much, much shorter. So what this does for companies is that you don't now need to put together long-term plans and long-term ROI. You can build shorter experiment cycles, right?
Yeah.
Pick a use case, pick a technology, pick a vendor. Don't run 12-month RFP processes to decide a vendor, because guess what? 12 months is a very long time, and those vendors will significantly change, and there's probably going to be a technology disruption before you decide even a vendor, right? So pick a vendor, pick a small use case, do an experimentation, and you can actually get to see some results in 4 weeks, in 5 weeks, in 6 weeks versus the 12 months and the 24 months you're used to. So now we are seeing a new form of agility coming in, right? With this mindset of start small, pick a small use case, pick a vendor fast, do an experimentation, and then see the ROI, right? And if the ROI is great, then you can move to a production deployment, or if ROI is not there, then you can move out and move to the next set of experiments, right? That's usually what we are seeing when it comes to agility of internal change management. The second agility, the other perspective on agility that we're seeing from our CIOs is more around testing newer technologies. As I said before, every week there's an event by a cloud provider or one of the large foundational companies, right? There's newer technology coming in, right? Embracing a mindset of experimenting with newer as they come out, right? So being agile. So you almost have like two teams, within a CIO group. One is, which is like experimenting literally every single day with every new thing coming in. And then you have another team which is more focused on the 4 to 6 months ROI-driven use cases, which is like, okay, let me pick one use case and let me pick a vendor, let me run a 4-week pilot, and let me get to the ROI, yeah or nay, and then move on and keep doing a lot of experiments. And there's another team which is like cooking up very, very crazy creative ideas with almost what was launched yesterday, right? Okay, what's being launched today? Let me try, let me see how it can help our business, right? So that's the agile mindset we are seeing in our CIO customers, both from a technology and also from a change management perspective.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I have a lot of conversations with senior leaders charged with leading the AI journey within their organizations, and so I get a lot of insights from them. And one of the things, of course, CIOs and IT teams are often charged with leading and driving AI adoption. And but some of the things that happen is that within organizations, oftentimes, you have all of these different lines of business and departments and people who have their own ideas about AI and are interested in, diving in and all of that sort of thing. And so I know that could be a challenge sometimes, and lasering in on where we start. You touched on this a little bit earlier in terms of figuring out some potential use cases. You can't do 500. By the way, you probably can't do 100, and you don't need to. But figuring out those sort of low-hanging fruit opportunities, those use cases that can lead to significant bottom line business impact, I think is part of the magic solution going forward. And so how, as it relates to contact center, is that such an attractive place to start with your AI initiatives?
No, absolutely. In fact, I feel like in whatever we have seen so far with our customers, customer service and contact center is such an amazing high ROI, shorter cycles places to prove ROI. So I'll give you some examples, right? Let's say, we have healthcare customers who, they're in the payer space. They get a lot of calls around, is the doctor in network? Is this elective procedure covered in my coverage? Where is my, can I get an appointment with a doctor, right? So a lot of appointment scheduling use cases. It's a very, very common use case in American healthcare system, right? We all make these kind of calls every single day. And often we run into trouble when getting to an agent. We run into trouble of, hours. A lot of these companies work 8 to 5, only on 5 days a week. And oftentimes we as consumers think about our doctors and patients and health over the weekends, and you don't have any help, right? So a very simple use case in healthcare is increasing access to care by deploying our AI agents, which are working 24/7, not certain hours of the day, which are available for consumers to call and asking about all these questions right when they need it, without having to be on hold, without having to wait, and all of that. And then from a CIO perspective, what this ends up doing is, one, they don't have to hire more people to man, these to support these calls that are coming in, right? And then second, they see improvement in member experience, right? Because if I'm getting care, if I'm getting the help I need from a healthcare provider, I'm going to retain more. My premium will go up. I'll continue working with you, right? Things of that nature. So the CIOs and CIOs are both very happy because it's a very high ROI use case. So in customer service, some of the key other use cases that we have seen for CIOs to see very high ROI in short amount of time is automating simpler routine calls. We all know your call center today is getting a lot of simpler calls, which sometimes you question, why are you even getting these calls? And do you really need a human to handle these calls? And the answer sometimes is no. You can actually put AI agents, right? Very easy, very straightforward, high ROI. You can reduce 20 to 30% of your call volume and deflect to AI agents. Some of the other use cases that we have seen from a agent augmentation perspective, human agent automation perspective, augmentation perspective is helping the human agent while they are doing these calls and interactions, right? What can I do to support them? You can have AI that helps them scan all the knowledge bases and get them the answer. Imagine a chat GPT for the human agents. They could become very, very productive. Imagine the human agent doesn't need to take call notes, because today, as part of their job, they have to scribble notes while they're on the call. And then after the call is over, they have to spend time writing notes. Easy. Take that away. You're reducing the after call work. You're making them more productive, and you're saving money. Right? So that's where we have seen there are some amazing easy use cases, high ROI and shorter cycle use cases that CIOs can just lean in and start optimizing their business tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that all of us have experienced customer service interactions, right? And none of us wake up any day thinking, I can't wait to reach out to that contact center customer service area or agent. And we're frustrated, we're confused, so many emotions are running through us. And when we do that outreach, it's like, ugh, I have to do it. I don't want to. But the thing is, and all of these things that we experience along the way, the details about my problem to one agent who transfers me to another agent, and I have to start all over. And you're just thinking, what, there has to be a better way. And I think that's really what's exciting to me with the integration of AI and conversational insights into contact center customer service operations, is that it's designed to ease those customer pain points that are very real pain points. And just like we are slow to forget irritating experiences that we have at the hands of customer service agents. But I think, and we all have them, we kind of expect them. But the other side of that coin is that we absolutely remember when we have great experiences. When you solved my problem, I don't care if it's AI or human or a combination of both, but when you're able to make those customer experiences that are all designed around solving a problem, when you can make those actually enjoyable to a certain degree and efficient, and I can check something off of my list of things I need to do. I mean, we walk away from those interactions and we remember those.
Absolutely.
And
I think today's world where, switching from a health insurance provider from one to another, changing your telco, right, is so easy. I can just go online and go from calling like AT&T to T-Mobile, or one bank to another. Like, it's so easy, right? Like, customer service and customer experience is the only differentiator, right? And you your customer once, they're not coming back. They're moving to a different bank or telco. It's very easy in today's time.
Yeah, no, it's so important. And your comment there about customer service and customer experience being the most important differentiator, I really do truly believe that's the case. And I believe that organizations who embrace that and who really focus on, especially today in this age of AI, using the best AI powered solutions to deliver on that front will reap the benefits from that. I'm 100% convinced of that. So as we wrap the conversation, the one last thing I want to ask you about is the build or buy question. So I know that, AI teams are staffed with engineers who are brilliant, who can build AI-powered contact center solutions in-house, but sometimes that's not the smartest path. Share with me, if you would, your thoughts and experiences on that front.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is what you shared, Shelly. There's a very common question or a conundrum we get from our CIOs, like, should I do it in-house? Should I do it externally? I always tell our CIO friends is getting something to 80% good is easy, right? You can use off-the-shelf technology. You can use the large LLMs. You can use agentic technology, right, and create these amazing fancy demos. Which look great, right? And they feel very good. They can do the job. And more often than not, they're basically the 80%. The fun happens when you try to take these technologies into production at enterprise scale. And that's what we call as the last mile of productionizing AI. And that's where we see a big gap in companies struggling to figure out that. Because because that is not their core expertise. So let's just use example of voice AI agents. So voice AI agents is an AI agent that you can talk to, feels human. You can they talk to you like a human. Very easy to create a great demo. But when you start putting something like this in production, you start running into things like interruption handling. You start running into things like latency. You start running into things like multi-speaker, background noise, someone calling you from New York streets, and then the CIO is like, that's not my core expertise. I'm a healthcare company. My core expertise is not speech modeling or speech understanding or speech improvement, right? And that's where then their excitement starts going down, which is like, oh, demos are easy and I can create these simpler things. But when it comes to production and taking the 80% to 99% is where I start struggling, right? So my advice and recommendation to CIOs is if you think the use case that you're trying to solve for is simpler enough and can be handled with a more out of the box open source technologies, absolutely go and build it, right? But if anywhere you feel that there's a last mile problem in your AI, right, there's an 80% to 99% gap, right? Please do not waste your time, right, in trying to solve that problem. That is not your core DNA. That is not your core skill set, and that's also not core to your business. You're a healthcare company, you're a financial services company. You should be deploying AI to improve those core experiences, not focusing on customer service and customer contact center, right? Where you can actually easily go to a vendor who has solved that 80 to 99% of the problems, and then out of the box gets you at 99% versus starting at 80%. Right? So that's how we educate and encourage our CIOs to think about when to build and when to buy.
Yeah. One of the ways that I think about this is that, so I started my first company when I was 34. I've been leading and building and scaling companies for my whole career. And one of the most important lessons that I've learned along the way is that it's not about whether I can do it, it's about whether I should do it. For instance, take something as simple as tax preparation. I'm no dummy. I could figure out how to complete tax forms, but that's not my core skill set. I bring a complete and total lack of knowledge of the nuances that are involved here to the equation. And I really might do myself a disservice. And I think that we're talking about the same thing here, and when it's not about that you can't do it, it's about whether you should do it. And the beauty, I think, of finding the right vendor partners that you can work with on your AI initiatives, especially as it relates to contact center and customer support, is that what you bring to the table is sometimes 10 or 15 years of expertise walking along other clients solving their problems. And so you're not reinventing the wheel. You're not discovering things as you go along. And I think that when you're talking about time to value, speed to value, the quickest way we can see ROI on these initiatives, to me, it's a no-brainer. You really don't want to build things in-house. You really want to look at solutions that are developed, that are mature as they can be in these ever-changing times, right? But I think there's so much to be had for aligning yourself with the right vendor partners and really speeding your path to success.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what a fantastic conversation this has been. Swapnil Jain, co-founder and CEO of Observe.ai. Thank you so much for joining me today. I knew it was going to be a great discussion. You did not disappoint. To our viewing and listening audience, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm your host, Shelly Kramer, principal analyst here at Kramer&Co. And if you're listening to the age of AI, if you have not yet hit that subscribe button, now's a great time to do that. And we'll see you here again next time.